Good evening and welcome to fiscal year 2023 budget discussion meetings. This is the Ways and Means Committee of the Greenfield City Council. Today is Tuesday, March 29, 2022. It is 6 p.m. I'd like to read the following statement, if I may. This meeting is being recorded and videotaped by the Ways and Means Committee and GCTV 15. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Okay. The meeting is called to order. We will have a roll call. Councillor Jarvis.
Here.
Councillor DeSorga.
Here.
Councillor Toronzo.
Here.
Councillor Healy. Councillor Healy. Okay. I'm Councillor Forgy. There's 4 of us present. We do have a quorum. We have approval of minutes. There are none. Public hearing. There is none. Motion. There are none. We will go right to, I like agendas like that. We will go right to the budget discussion. We're going to start this evening with the Building Inspections Department. The request is an appropriation to appropriate $40,000 from 8402 Capital Stabilization for an inspection department vehicle. We have our building inspector, Mark Snow, here with us this evening. So Mark, I'd like to ask you if you'd take over and give us a bit of a background on this, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak before you in regards to this request. This vehicle will be purchased under the city's efficient economy policy for fuel economy. We will be working with the procurement and Carol Collins with her department to purchase this new vehicle. The vehicle will be replacing an existing vehicle. The existing vehicle is a 2002 Toyota 4Runner. It has approximately 96,000 miles on it. I was notified by Paul Newell, the assistant field superintendent for the DPW division for maintenance. He informed me that the frame, which has already been repaired once that I'm aware of, is in need of additional work, and he indicated that it is time to have the vehicle replaced. So as a result of that, I put in this request of $40,000. Hoping to go through the state bid process similar to what the health department and fire department and other departments go through to get the best cost for a vehicle.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mark at this particular time?
I do.
Okay, Councillor DeSorga, go ahead, please.
Are you on schedule with your vehicles? Mark, can I call you Mark? Is that okay?
You may call me Mark.
Okay. So are you on schedule with your vehicles?
We're a small department, so there has been no schedule per se, okay, like the larger departments. This is the first time that I've requested a new vehicle. I know that the other vehicle in the inspections department right now was purchased along with a few others. This is my first request. So there has been no schedule. I'm hoping that if the need arises again, that I'll have more time to better plan and allow you folks more time to make the adjustments and the approvals that's necessary.
Counselor Jarvis.
Thanks, Chris. Mark, I have to say, I was doing the math. I was trying to count how many years you had that vehicle, and I can remember 14 years of it myself when I had to, with my dealings with you, with the inspections and stuff like that, and meeting you. I didn't realize it was 20 plus years ago. I do have to say that I'm quite amazed that we get our use out of our vehicles here in Greenfield. There's no doubt about it. I don't think there's anybody that can say that we don't get our use out of our vehicles. I fully expected to see George come forward for that. That pickup truck was a wastewater treatment, and then it was the fire departments, and now George is still limping it around. So we get our use, and I fully back this vehicle and a new vehicle, because I cannot believe that we are welding frames on vehicles. So I said that at the last meeting, and I'll say it again. So yes, you got my full support on a new vehicle. It's well deserved.
Thank you.
Councilor Forgy.
Yes, go ahead, Counselor DeSordo.
Great, Councilor Jarvis. I don't know. Agreed. I had another call for text from a counselor who can't get in to this meeting. I don't know if there's anything anybody else can do about that. The person.
We are missing Derek. Is it Derek?
No, it's Councilor Bullock.
Okay.
In the waiting room for Ways and Means. So I'm mentioning that on public because I don't know what the problem would be with that. You all know my computer, my IT ability. That is my first thing. And I don't know if anybody can help with that, or what I should reply. Should I say, and Councilor Jarvis, I know you're pretty good with these things. Is there something, I don't mean to be having crosstalk, but is there something else I should write to the person back for anybody that knows?
Maybe she should try the link on the calendar.
Agreed.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Okay. All right.
Agreed. And if she can't get in through that link, she can phone in.
Okay.
And that way, at least she'll be able, I don't know if that'll be helpful to her, but that's another way to get into the meeting.
All right. So I'm sorry to interrupt. So this made the, I just wanted to make sure. So now back to the.
There she is.
Oh, good.
She's
okay.
on.
Yep.
Okay.
We got it. Yep.
Sorry. Thank you, Jenny.
All right. My IT skills once again came to the fore. So did this make the cut? Because was this approved? I know this was approved by the Capital Committee, and this made the cut and is on the list, which I was just looking. I was up in my chair looking around. Okay. Well, sounds like it certainly was needed. Okay.
All right. Are there any more questions for Mark before we thank him very much for his service to the town for quite a long period of time? We really appreciate that. And thank you for being with us here this evening. We'll see what we can do about wrestling up a new car.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. On our next agenda item, we have to appropriate $100,000 for equipment and related costs for GCET's Municipal Light Plan Telecommunications System Expansion. And we have Director of GSET here with us this evening, John Lunt. And I'd like to ask Mr. Lunt if he would enlighten us as to what exactly is going on and share with us any comments he may have about this request.
I'd be happy to. I did see that Marlo had his hand up a couple of times, and I wanted to give him you're good. Okay.
Yeah, I can wait till I start. I just had a comment on vehicles. Yep. Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, counselors. I'm glad to be here tonight. When we started the process of asking for capital, which we have done several times in the past, it was very unclear where we would be with potential funding from the American Recovery Plan Act. And since the mayor has been very generous with us for the Recovery Plan Act, and since the preponderance, really all of our work in terms of network build out is going to be in the north of Greenfield, which is covered under the American Recovery Plan Act. We've talked, and I've talked with my board, and while I appreciate it, and we could certainly always use it, I think that this year we have, in the last 3 years, including this year, we'll have paid down about $750,000 of the principal of our bond and additional capital bonds. We're due to pay another $400,000 down next year. And while I certainly may be back in the future with an ask for capital funding, I think this year, given the nature of our work and given the fact that ARPA funding should prove to be sufficient for that, I don't believe that we really need to pursue the $100,000 of capital funding this year.
Very good.
Okay, so that's fabulous. And I've never heard that before.
Well, I understand. I just felt like we would be asking just to ask, and there will be times when I will come to you and really need your help and really need to ask for it, but just now isn't one of those times.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for John?
I do.
Yep, go ahead, Ginny.
Always have a question. So what, this is just a timeline on your ARPA funding. Do you have to use, this is 2 questions. Do you have to use that, all of the ARPA funding that you're given within a certain time frame? In other words, I think it's like what was the figure that you were getting? 600 and something thousand?
650,000. There is a timeline. It's rather long. I believe it's 6 years. Mayor, maybe you could confirm that. I think it's within 6 years that you have to use it. So we don't really have any concerns. I'm sure we'll spend it far quicker than that. But it isn't a question of use it, within the next 6 or 8 months or lose it. They're big projects that it's meant to fund. And as other people here know, big projects take a long time to do. So they gave us whoever made that decision for the ARPA plan, I think made sure there was enough time for people to work on what they needed to.
That's great.
And specifically, the way it works, the actual final rules on how you could use the money changed long after the awarding of the money. And for us, it was really important to have ARPA money because generally speaking, monies that are for infrastructure are unavailable to broadband no matter what the sort of top line says, because the qualifying restrictions are so limiting that generally speaking, municipal telecommunications plants can't access normal infrastructure funding. It has to do with what is considered quote unquote served or unserved. ARPA considers all of North Greenfield underserved or unserved, which means that we are allowed to use the federal money to expand service in North Greenfield. And since it is a big project and really all of the extension of the network for us in the next year or so is going to be up there, year or less, it all falls within the ARPA designated area. And that was one reason why I went to the mayor early on, because not all infrastructure dollars are the same. And the ARPA money is a unique chance for us that, for example, in the following infrastructure bill, we don't qualify for that. So we want to focus our efforts and make sure that we can spend the money as best and as wisely as we can.
Follow up, if I may, Councilor Forgy. So
Yes, it is.
that's wonderful, and thank you, Mayor. I think that was a great use of that ARPA funding. I read that was one of the things that could be for. That seems like a wonderful use for it. How long do you think it would take you to be using that? Would it take you more than a year? Just because we've given you about 150 or something like that, or not we've given you, we voted for that.
Right.
Yeah.
We should be done within a year. You know, the procurement process can be quite lengthy. And we have gotten a lot of help from the town and from Laura and the procurement department, who has been great working with us.
Mhm.
But it's not fast. So, and it's not as predictable as it might be. So we are doing work already. Some of the work we've done ourselves. We may choose to do more labor ourselves so we can stretch those dollars and buy more equipment. We're constantly looking at how we can make the money go farther. So you will see, I'm sure people in North Greenfield have seen GSET trucks up there. We're pulling strand wire, which is the steel wire that we then wrap the fiber optic cables around. It makes it far more resistant to problems like poles being hit, which has happened twice in the last week here. So we have started the parts that we can start, and we will continue to do that even while we're working our way through the bids and what our response to those bids will be. We have a delivery of basically a switching enclosure. It's an 8x8 cement building in late April or early May. That's another milestone for us. But we will have months of configuring and additional work. We will do as much of it as we can. We will have subs help us with some of the work because we want to go as quickly as we can. So I would say it would be less than a year. I would hope it would be substantially faster than that. I'll be more comfortable saying that once we've gotten through the bid process and then are able to lock in times when subs would come and work.
Great. Well, thank you for all you do.
Councilor Jarvis.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks, John. I know that'll make my life easy up here. I constantly get bombarded by when is GSET coming to the north end of Greenfield. So I'm glad to hear that that you folks are coming up. I was ecstatic. You caught me by surprise. You could have pushed me over with a feather. Nobody ever gives back money that they get that they have almost 100% chance of getting. So you kind of caught me a little bit off guard by that, but thank you for that. I'm sure the town thanks you. The taxpayers thank you. And I hope that I'm not too far in on the circle to be able to get, because we have underground cable and electric up here on Plantation Circle. So I hope we can get to a lot of the people here.
You also have two street lights right at the entrance to your semicircle there. So I don't know if we can get 100% coverage, but we'll be able to cover quite a few people within Plantation Circle.
I'm sure some of them will be happy and some of them won't, but hopefully someday we can make them all happy, but we'll see what happens. But thank you for everything you guys do. And you have been noticed that you've been up here. I've been hearing from folks. So
good. I'm glad to hear that. Great.
Councilor Ford, did you want us to raise our hands? Or should we just speak?
You're fine. As long as I can recognize you, you're good. So go ahead, Councilor DeSorbo.
I just wanted to say one thing with on the open checkbook. It actually isn't, we can't quite see what has happened. This is actually a comment for the mayor. Not that you'd be doing open checkbook, Mayor, and thank you for all you do. But it isn't apparent to anybody who's looking where exactly things have gone on open checkbook. It just goes right across in a big line. It doesn't really say where it's gone, but
Yeah,
that is something I just, Go ahead.
It's a single line item, as I indicated in the email I think I sent to everyone. It's a single line item under, excuse me. She
We've
was
received
addressing
it.
me, so I thought I could.
No, that's perfectly okay. That is fine. I just,
Yeah.
Councilor Jasorgi, you asking this question in regard to GSET being an open checkbook?
Just in general for ARPA, we had a comment.
Okay.
That we had
Okay.
a comment. So it was kind of, it wasn't tied to GSET in particular. It was tied to ARPA funding, and it was stated, and maybe I didn't read the email thoroughly enough, Mayor. I just wanted to point out that I looked at open checkbook and I couldn't quite see where all the ARPA things went, but I just was, that was just a comment.
Not,
It's okay. Go
if
ahead.
I can explain.
Yes.
Email indicated that it's a single line item under, I can't remember the name of the section of the open checkbook, but it has something to do with grants and other funding, something similar to that. And it is a single line item that indicates, if I'm not mistaken, the total amount. To my knowledge, I don't know that much about open checkbook, so I don't know as I begin to authorize the money to be spent, which I do through the accounting department, whether or not that gets updated in open checkbook. But I could certainly check and check the checkbook, check and see if it does.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you know, you're all of you counselors are certainly welcome to inquire as we go forward. I don't, as we know we need the money for things that they know, like for instance, Don, I had to send an email to Angelica this week. I think it was this week. It's only 2 days. It must have been last week. I had to send her an email authorizing the use of the 650 for him. So as we begin to use it, I'm certainly capable of updating you, and I'm happy to either do that at a city council meeting or whenever.
Thank you. Are there any more questions for John? Not seeing any. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, folks.
It was very pleasant. Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you
You
for
too.
being with us. Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye.
I don't think Marlo's going to take anything away from his budget there.
I got first dibs, John.
Well, so next on our agenda, we're going to discuss the public works. Director Warner, that's a hard act to follow, really, All right, so we have with us this evening Director Warner from the DPW. There are multiple, and you will see them on your agenda schedule, there are multiple capital requests. I know we're going to take each one separately as we go into discussion at this point. I'm going to turn it over to Director Warner. If there is anything you want to change in the order that you're going to do things or anything like that, that is fine. If that is, goes with your flow, just let us know where we can find the information. So, okay, you're up. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. It's my annual touch-up on becoming a counselor once I retire on motions and orders. I gotta go through my spiel. So I just want to make a quick comment on the vehicles before we get going. The small departments are carried under the DPW, just so everyone knows. There's a lot of new counselors. We cover the fuel, the repairs, maintenance, that would consist of inspections, Board of Health, rec in the City Hall car, just so that everyone knows. We carry that under our budget for the fuel also. And we generally recommend to the specific department head when it's getting time to replace your vehicle. And that's why I believe Mark and Director Hoffman has come to you this year. So, and I think there was 2 repairs to Mark's frame, and not to date myself, but I did one of them way back when in the shop. So I won't go there. Time flies. So I set my manual up, I should say, in order that you have it in front of you if my agenda is the same as yours. So we generally go with the general appropriations first, or requests, which would include central maintenance. Then we'll go to sewer, then to water, as you see it on your agenda in that order, if that's okay with the committee.
Anybody have any objection with that, to the order of that?
So just clarification, we're starting on the Main Street reconstruction. Is that where we're starting?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we
Okay.
ready?
Yep, we're good to go. Thank you.
Okay, here we go, 1 year later. I think most of you have probably heard about the Main Street reconstruction project. I submitted this project about 1.5 years ago, working with the mayor and the FERCog under their TIP program, Transportation Improvement Plan, under the TPO, Transportation Planning Organization. And the best way to describe this project is exactly what we did with Nash's Mill Bridge and our recent success with Wisdom Way. So the intent here is we pay for all engineering and design for these projects. In this case, it'll probably go up a little bit more, but full boat would be around $650,000, and we would eventually be voted to get a $5.8 million project done on Main Street, if that makes sense. We invested somewhere around $500,000 on Wisdom Way, and we're getting close to a $3 million project, which is beginning to get underway. So the project is not, it's got an ID number out of Boston. These projects are funded by Mass DOT and the Federal Highway Administration. There's a split of monies that pay for these projects. But as I said, we're responsible for the engineering and design. As we get closer to 100%, they put it up to vote against other projects, other communities. So Wisdom Way, we jumped ahead 3 years because we were aggressive with our engineering. So that's a good thing. And I would trade that kind of money for 5.8 any day of the week, I guess. So this is kind of, we started the survey, and when I say survey, it was an engineering survey of Main Street. I believe the council appropriated $65,900 back last spring for the initial survey, and this is the piece of money, the 275, that will get us to 50% design and engineering on the project. And obviously, it's going to take most of the year to do the engineering design up to 50%. There's a lot that goes along with it. A lot of committees have invited me lately to, speak to the project, such as, removing angle parking, where we remove it, go to parallel parking, to add bike lanes, to do a intersection improvement at a high street. And the layout of the project, or the scope of the project, is from High Street all the way to Coleraine Street, the full length of Main Street, where the pavement and everything would be reconstructed. The islands would be reconstructed to today's standards to improve pedestrian and vehicle access at the same time. Do we want to take questions on each project, Councilor Forgy, or
Yes, I think we should do it that way. If there are any questions on this, Councilor DeSorga.
So we do all of the engineering on that. How are we staffed with engineering?
So a project of this magnitude, like many of our large projects, this is consulted out to a company by the name of Fuss & O'Neill, the same ones that did Wisdom Way, and I believe Nash's Mill. So we don't engineer this in-house. This is a major engineering project.
Two more. I have two more follow-up questions.
Go ahead.
So when we do the engineering on this, it's great, or send it out to be bid, and then Mass DOT gives us money for that street. Does that include the infrastructure underneath?
No, it does not. The $5.8 million is for the curb-to-curb improvements that I spoke of. Any other infrastructure, which I'm working with the mayor and a little bit with MJ right now on grants and whatnot to upgrade what poor infrastructure or old infrastructure we may have under Main Street. We need to do that first.
Very good. And what is the parking? Of course, we've all heard quite a bit about, or reading the paper, following some of this. What is the rationale for the parallel parking? Can you tell us anything about that, or is that something that's within your?
Yeah, sure.
Scope?
So Main Street looks awfully wide when there's no one parked on it. As you know, it looks really wide. To add bike lanes with parallel parking, we all know parallel parking backing out. There's blind spots, and it's the most dangerous place to have a bike lane is behind parallel parking or out in the travel lane. And in order to incorporate bike lanes on both sides of Main Street, which requires 5 feet with a 1 foot white stripe to delineate cyclists from the parking, if we did angle parking and put the bike lane against the curb, we would not have enough travel lane width back and forth in order to, say, get a fire truck through. We'd be too narrow on parallel parking. There's going to be public comment on all this as we go through the engineering, public hearings. You know, we may be able to keep some of the angle parking in certain areas. We may not in others. But as we work to 50% design, that's when we get the answer to all these questions and get all the input. But it's good the community is talking about it now. I've been talking about it for about 6 months with different communities, and as you know, there's a lot of parking forums and there's a lot of good discussion on that right now.
Well, I like that. I like the sound of it. It sounds like something we were going to spend money and get 5.8 million, and that's a good thing. We have had, it has come up at Disability Access about handicap parking in parallel. Parking is a little, yeah, I'm just mentioning that. That's kind of a hurdle. But anyways, it sounds great, and thank you. That's a big project for the downtown area.
Council Toronto.
I was curious as to changing over to that style of parking with the bike lane on the inside between them and the curb, right? Is that 5 feet you said wide?
Yes, the project has to meet Mass DOT standard and Federal Highway Administration in order for them to pay for the project. So it's required 5 foot bike lane. Yes.
So is that, thinking about the winter time, is that something that could be used as, does that have to stay cleared throughout the winter as well, like a road or a sidewalk, or would that be able to be used as kind of a buffer zone for, you know, because I know it's hard for business owners downtown. They're trying to clear it, and then the town's trying to clear it, and then it becomes this big mound, and it's all near the parking meters. It makes a big hassle for people to try to step over or pay for parking, and it's just the nature of old construction with new modern stuff. But is that something that would be able to be used for that, or is there a requirement to keep that cleared even through the wintertime?
I don't see nearly as many cyclists in the winter. Of course, I'm usually on the road in the middle of the night, but we certainly try and keep clear curb to curb when we can. The other thing to keep in mind is there's 2 options for the bike lane. If we went to parallel parking, and again, this is all part of public comment. I'm not recommending one or the other, but I got to follow standard and code. Bike lanes can go against the curb, which seems to be the fancied way, but the bike lanes can also go on the outside, on the edge of the travel lane if we were parallel parking, either or. So like I said, there's a lot of discussion, a lot of information that'll be put out between now and the end of 50% design that I'm requesting here.
Okay, so the 5, oh, right. So what I was thinking was, I know that in some places they have, I don't know if you want to call it like a protected bike lane, where you'd have almost like a mini Jersey barrier separating the parallel parking. So that's not part of this, or I mean, maybe it's too early to talk about that part. That's what I was wondering. If it's a separated thing with like a little mini curb or Jersey barrier, would we still have to clear that area? But are you saying that it maybe is just painted line for bike lane, kind of like we have down the sides of Federal Street and stuff?
Yes, right now it's like what you see on Federal Street on the conceptual that got us the project number out of Boston.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean things can't change. We just have to be careful on adding costs to the project because
Right.
there's many questions about sidewalk improvement to go along with it, but it's I call it a curb to curb project.
Okay.
I have a question for you, if I may. I'd like to know from start to finish, how long will the project take?
So that's the interesting question about TIP and TPO. So if we were able to receive these funds, it's going to take probably till fall, winter in order to get the 50% design and get through all the public hearings and through that process. So as of now, I'd be looking at 50 to 75%, they call it, or 50 to 100% design, potentially probably at the latest the next capital season. Now, once we head for 100% design, it gets put into the pool of projects that are fully engineered and designed, and we go through a process with the TPO. And if other projects are not fully engineered, they drop off. And if that allotted amount of money for this project is available, they'll move us up a few years, and that's what happened with Wisdom Way. So that's not a direct answer to your question. We just received word that we're programmed for FY27, but we're also programmed for FY26 for Wisdom Way, and we're digging. So the more aggressive we are, the sooner this project happens, I guess, is the best way to answer that question.
Thank you. And for the record, the request is for $275,000. $100,000 is requested from Fund 8402, the Capital Stabilization Fund, and the rest, $175,000, is a request to borrow. Just want to make that clear for the record.
Yes, that's how Liz decided to break that out on the financial.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Any more questions on this one? Okay.
All right, 20 to go. No.
Yeah.
I hope the next one's a little quicker, or it could be quicker.
Good.
But I welcome all questions, so don't take that comment wrong. So the next one is a highway fund appropriation I've been asking for, well, since my return. This would be the fourth capital season. I think I summed it up with the council when I was invited this month, how our Chapter 90 has been frozen for going on 11 years now at $635,000 for our road work. Construction costs have gone up 37%. And I can honestly say everything's so volatile right now. I expect that to jump a good percentage for blacktop costs, fuel costs, and all that. But so I've been requesting this every year to help offset so we can keep up with our road rating. We have a very, very good pavement management program. And it's a struggle. You know, it seems like we do a lot of work every year, but we break even when we re-rate the roads when we're done. So these funds help offset so our roads overall don't get worse than what they are, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Questions?
And I did add material on projected possible roads. So
Right.
roads have changed a lot this winter. I indicated that at the city meeting. So sometimes roads get kicked off the list and new ones get put on because they go in a really bad way in one winter, which we've had a few roads do that.
Again, I just want to read into the record that the request is for $200,000 to be appropriated for the highway fund, and the appropriation transfer of $100,000 from Fund 8402 Capital Stabilization, and an authorized borrowing for the sum of $100,000.
Yes, 50-50 split.
Okay,
Those two
that's
accounts.
excellent. Any further questions before we move on? Okay, great. Next one.
Okay, the next request is for engineering on the Mill Street Bridge. So Mass DOT kindly and freely evaluates our bridges and sends us the results with their bridge engineers. just recently, the Mill Street came back and there was quite a bit of scouring underneath. There's abutment work and whatnot. So this has to be engineered by a structural engineer. So generally it's about 10%, engineering and design's 10% of a project. That's the general rule of thumb. So this $25,000 tells me right now it's about a $250,000 repair. And the important part about catching these repairs now is once they start, a bridge starts to deteriorate, it goes real fast if you don't catch it in time or in a timely fashion. So this is pretty straightforward. We haven't actually reached out to a firm yet. We want to, ensure that we have the funding first to get this process going on that bridge.
The request is for $25,000 and the ask is from Fund 8402, Capital Stabilization. Any questions? Okay, we're moving on to the next one, sidewalks.
Okay, infrastructure, like roads, sidewalks, they're very old in the city. We made some great strides last year with in-house projects, combination of in-house repairs, replacements, grant, and contracted. We did about 5,400 feet of sidewalk last year. That's over a mile. That's the most I ever recall doing in the city in 1 year, in my long tenure here. So I'm requesting the funding. I've also added the in-house list and other streets on the list. We haven't nailed down exactly what walkways we're doing. We're going to do some in-house. We have $8,000 left from last year's appropriation, which will allow the highway guys to do highway crew, to do some. But again, I'm in a place where everything's so volatile right now. We kind of got to figure out where we're at on increased costs when it comes to contractors with their fuel. So it'll be something off that list. We're just not sure what yet.
Okay, are there any, oh yeah, yep, okay. Are there any questions? Councilor DeSorga, go right ahead.
I think maybe it was a tie. Councilor Toronzo, you might have been first.
Okay, I'm
After you,
sorry.
please. After you.
Go right ahead, Councilor Toronzo.
Oh, geez. Okay. I was just wondering I guess it kind of ties in with this. Is there any plan of kind of making sidewalk access to the police station? I know that I've been asked that many times over the years, or even just maybe a crosswalk. I mean, I know the sidewalk goes down to where the old to like Lincoln Street. Is that where it's right there on the corner? But I don't know. I always felt like after they moved, having good, like protected walking access to get to a police station if you have to report something is kind of important, especially on a very used street like High Street. I didn't know if that might make it onto a list.
Well, yes, it certainly can. There's a couple of things going on with adding a crosswalk there. Number one, it becomes a mid-block crosswalk, which if you read any data is probably the most dangerous crosswalk you can have. So in other words, it doesn't intersect an intersection where people have to stop.
Right.
And if we were to add one, it's a pretty steep slope on the driveway side of the PD, and we have to hit, whenever we touch anything, even in-house, we have to hit the ADA requirements. And it's, I think it would turn into, and it can be done obviously, but a much larger project on the PD side to hit our requirements. And then how do they get access to the front of the building up an active parking lot? So
Sure.
yeah, have to be some thought. Anything's doable in my mind.
Right.
But where it lands, I'm not sure. We definitely have to have rapid flash beacons there. If we ever added it, that's another $5,000 expense.
Okay.
So on and so forth. But it's doable.
Okay.
Councilor DeSorga.
So your initial request was for $200,000. And
Yeah.
that was actually what the Capital Committee approved. Is that correct? That's correct, Councilor Forgy.
Yes, that's correct.
This is a bit of a safety hazard. Would you agree? We have I know personally, we've gotten emails, et cetera, about people who've been hurt on the sidewalks. Do you feel that taking care of our sidewalks is a necessity as far as safety?
I would say both sidewalks and roads. I mean, they're kind of like, they're neck and neck at the finish line here as far as safety and condition. And we do, we try and keep up with what hazards we find or they're reported. We do try to at least address them. It's reactive. So, we have all our sidewalks evaluated from 1 to 5. We have a few 5s. We're trying to eliminate them. Those are the worst. We have a lot of 3s. So sometimes the sidewalk replacement doesn't have to happen on the whole road either. Maybe just a section. Could be a 100-foot section that's really bad. Could be a couple of slabs. But yeah, I would agree. I mean, we run into liabilities and hazards every day, counselor. So
Mm-hmm. So, Councilor Forgy, there's 100,000 of this is coming from borrowing. Is that correct? I think.
Yes, right now, for the record, the request is 136, 36,000 transferred from 8402 capital stabilization and 100,000 authorized to borrow.
And I think reading Liz's memo, there will still be extra in capital stabilization that we've put aside. You did vote on that. You did vote to approve this as a capital committee.
Yes, that is the first that we did. The capital committee did vote to approve the original request. That is correct.
And so I saw a lot of the sidewalks that were on the list, and I'm familiar with them because I walk a lot. There are many that are 3s and 4s that are very hazardous. I would just hope that everybody would take a look at those sidewalks, because that is the number one thing that people do for a physical activity here, and not just here in Greenfield, but everywhere. And from a health standpoint and from a disability access standpoint, I think that's an important thing to take care of. That's all.
Thank you. Is there any other counselor that would like to comment at this point? Okay. Thank you, and we'll move on to the next one, which is Legion Ave.
Legion Ave. So this is phase 1 of phase 2. I don't know if anyone has been in the Legion lot, saying or on Legion Ave into the Legion lot the last 4 or 5 years, but it's constant landmines. That parking lot is turned into a liability just getting in and out of a car with so many potholes we're constantly filling. So we requested for 60,000 to do the first phase, which is just under half of it. The other phase is going to have to include similar design you see behind Town Hall, or some sort of water runoff detention type piece. So this was the very worst section that we're always addressing. So the request was to do that section. We could also, this section we could get away with what we call a mill and an overlay. We can mill 1.5 inches off and put 1.5 inches back in. The other sections may have to go full depth reclamation, which is a much more expensive process per square yard to replace or to repair. So
I do have a question, if I may. This is again, for the record, $60,000 to be appropriated from Fund 8402 Capital Stabilization. Is this the piece of that parking lot that the town owns, or are we renting this piece of the parking lot?
This is the section, Councilor Forgy, that it looks like a piece of pie on the plan that we're currently under lease. We have site control of it.
Okay.
And over the years, I think you were involved many moons ago, whether I plowed it or not, on different occasions and so on and so
Sure.
forth. It's our duty to repair what we're leasing there, I guess, and it's appropriate also.
Okay, I just needed the clarification that this is land we are leasing at this point.
Correct. We got site control. I made sure of that.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. Thank you very much. Is there any other questions?
I have a
Councilor
question.
DeSorga?
So we're going to do this in two parts, correct? And the first part of this, the area that needs to be done is 23,710 square feet. Is that right?
I'm trying to remember if that's the number I had on the plan. I don't have it in front of me, but it sounds right.
Okay. And then we'll finish the rest of it probably next year?
Yes. Well, I will request to finish it next year.
Are you anticipating that both halves will be about the same, or there's more to be done on the other half? You can't tell.
I think there's more in phase two because we have to meet all the new stormwater requirements, everything that goes along with that, and runoff. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we're going to move on. Appropriate 285,000 to purchase a curbside trash collection truck. Speaking of vehicles.
yes, what happened to solid waste vehicles? We've all moved back to the trash collection and so on and so forth. But anyways, so yes, this is one of two fully active trash trucks that we have, solid waste trucks that collect our trash. I can honestly say I did provide a bunch of pictures. I hope you all got to see them. And the hours that are on the drivetrains and transmissions is phenomenal. We just recently had to change a transmission at the tune of $8,000 on one of them, not this one. And they're rusting severely. They definitely reached their end point under a heavy duty vehicle capital plan, or maybe a little beyond. This certain vehicle has been breaking down frequently, and it's forced us to pull actual laborers off other jobs and go out in 1 tons to collect the trash when the truck is down and being repaired. So this is a very important piece to me, I know, to keep the transfer station on the go up there.
Okay, and for the record, the request is 285,000. 85,000 will come from Fund 8402 Capital Stabilization, and the rest, the 200,000, is requested as a borrowing. Are there any questions? Councilor DeSorga and Councilor Jarvis right after that.
The initial, this is a 2004 vehicle. You mentioned the other vehicle. The initial request was for 2 trash vehicles, I believe. It's what it looked like originally, both of which were approved by the Capital Committee. Could you tell us about the other truck and the schedule for how we've been replacing your vehicles?
As far as the trash and recycle vehicles, if you're asking, they're both, I think they're 1 year apart. Truck 197, 198. One's in a little better shape than the other, although not very dependable as the one we're replacing. So we right now we're actually behind schedule on capital replacement of our vehicles and dependability of them. But that stems back 10 years. Not many vehicles were bought at all. As we're coming to the end of what we consider in our capital plans, vehicle plans, the end of their life cycle in dependability. So, into the next few years, I'm going to be looking for replacing all 4 of these as long as we stay in the business, which I assume we are.
Councilor Jarvis.
Hi, Marlo, and good to see you. I'll be
Yeah,
easy
you as
on
well.
you. I won't. I will say we get you make it possible that we get mileage out of our vehicles. Just a quick question. I know the trucks we have now are retrofitted with, if people have the trash barrels that they can hook on and dump. Does this one have on it too? This one gonna have that retrofit on it?
Yeah, I think I sent all the specs with the information.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's in there, and if not, we'll spec it with one.
Yeah, I know
Because
it makes
we
the
have
guy's life a lot easier. I know my cans have the hooks on it, and the guy likes it. So
Yeah, and when we go to large buildings that have a lot of waste, that's good. They just hook the barrels and dump them and go rather than, that's
Okay.
a lot of things to move by hand like I used to do it back in the day.
yeah, and your back probably paid for it too. So
I've been rehabbing a shoulder all winter. I just think sometimes, So,
okay, thank you. That's it. I told you I was going to be easy on you.
you can go as hard as you want. It took me a year to put this together, and I enjoy this. I know you think I'm crazy, but it's good to put the work out there. Everybody's worked hard to put it together.
Are there any other questions on this item? Okay, we're going to move forward. Marlo, 95,000 to design a replacement for the Shelburne Road culvert. I
Yep.
think is our next one.
Sorry, all them specs for the trash truck were there. It took me forever to turn to this page. Yeah, everything's there, Council.
It is.
Yes.
And these are
So-
double-sided too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look, I always think pictures, specs, and all the information I can provide is the best ahead of time. So design Shelburne Road culvert replacement. Councilor Forgy, this one may ring a bell with you. In 2001, we had what was my first flood when I was aboard. I started in '99. And it washed out the upper part of Shelburne Road. There's a culvert right on a 90-degree turn. And I think Councilor Jarvis is aware. He's been up there in the fire truck over the years. But it narrowed the road on one side. It scoured the edges of the road. So he caved in. And it's about a 70-foot drop straight down ledge that gave way. It's just ledge there now. So this is going to be a very in-depth project. Again, some pretty good engineering. If it's 10% of a project, we're looking at $1 million, and we are looking at grants and other ways of funding the project. But most projects of this magnitude, they like to see them shovel ready. So in other words, we have the engineering and design done, so we can get in the race on grant money. But this road is getting narrower and narrower to the point where I'm bouncing back and forth on whether I want to close that road at some point. Only because of the situations it's been under for 20 years, 21 years.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Councilor Toronto.
I was just curious, is this, I know that Shelburne was on the list of the, for the highway funds for paving. Is this part of that same area? This is going to go would that paving go all the way up to this area as well?
Well, it's gonna start down the bottom near the Route 2 bridges, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And this is gonna put a shim on that road. That road has deteriorated to the point where if you don't have dental insurance, don't drive up there. Patching it all the time. So we got to do something with that road in order to make it passable, just for cruisers and fire truck emergency response. I mean, even plowing it in the winter, the guys come down off the hill with their teeth chattering. It's in that poor shape. So part of the paving money is to try and shore that road up a little, at least shim it, smooth it, and then the culvert's at the top, near the top before the city line with Shelburne.
So are we gonna? What I mean is, like, are we gonna cut? If knowing that this is necessary to be done, is it worthwhile to even, mill up that area, or and pave it, or are we cutting it back, before the area that would need to be moved or adjusted for the culvert?
We'll at least stop 100, 200 feet back minimum.
Oh, gotcha.
And again, this is just going to get an overlay to smooth that road up. It's not
Just a top coat.
Yes,
Yeah.
just so that we can make that liability drivable again. This is the best way of saying it.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, and again, the request for 95,000 is from Fund 8402 Capital Stabilization. If we have no questions on this, we will move on to the mower.
All right.
All right, the mower is very exciting.
Yes, well, it is for us if when you hear what I'm about to say.
Okay,
What we have in place is a Tiger Mower 1988. It's a standard transmission. If anybody's mowed a roadside with a standard transmission, that it takes both feet to push the clutch in. Not fun. And I can tell you many I used to like the overtime way back when, and I questioned myself every time I got out of it, to be quite frank. So we were originally under a Western Mass and Eversource replacement program. There was 8 communities, and Eversource was supplying a roadside mower to a community at a time, and everybody would use that new mower. And after 3 to 5 years, the initial community would keep that mower. It's theirs to keep to do their roadsides. Well, it got to Greenfield's turn 3 years ago, and they cut the program.
of course.
Thus, you see them cutting all the trees. That was part of a much larger. They incorporated their money into that. So this particular machine, no exaggeration. We're trying to find a transmission case for it. Parts are so hard to get. We found one in Texas in a field, the transmission, and the case was just as cracked and broken as the one we had. So we've actually welded the transmission on this 3 or 4 times to keep it moving. That's the minor repairs lately. It seems to be down more than up, and it's very important. It's a very important piece of machinery. Councilor Jarvis and Bronzo, you're familiar, and Councilor Forgy, you're familiar with Barton Road in the bridge intersection. We mow that 3 or 4 times a year because you cannot get off that bridge out on a Barton Road without getting hit. So I split the purchase of this mower 3 ways, and if there's any question on why I took water and sewer, we have many off-road areas, water and sewer mains on right-of-ways. Out behind Councilor Disorder's place, we have a water and sewer main that runs out through the woods and comes out on the lower end of Silver Street. All these areas have to be maintained so we can get in an emergency and repair something. But if we let all the trees and everything grow in, it would be a big problem. So we have much mileage of water and sewer off road. So I split this 3 ways because it's going to be used for water, sewer, and our regular roadways, if that makes sense.
Okay. Again, this is a request from Fund 8402 Capital Stabilization for $50,000 to purchase 1/3 of the roadside mower. Thank you. Okay, if no one has any questions, we go on to the next one. This is the fire suppression system at the transfer station.
Yeah, I tricked myself up.
Okay, that's all right.
That's okay. I got it here. So the fire suppression system about 10 years was changed. 10 years ago was changed out at the transfer station. As you know, we store a lot of cardboard paper in there. Paper dust is pretty dangerous and it ignites pretty easily. So we changed out to an antifreeze type system so we could save on heat and winterize the building. So since we've done that, under federal regulation, we have to, they're no longer saying that the material we're using in our fire suppression system is legal beyond October, I believe. So we have to spend the money to get it changed out to meet federal regulations on that.
Okay, $42,000 requested is from Fund 8402 Capital Stabilization. Are there any questions? I think that's a no-brainer. Yeah.
I mean, there's a few parts and pieces that have to be swapped out too. It's not just the chemical or the fluid we're adding. It's to convert it over to this particular material also.
Right. Okay, if there's no questions, we will move on to the repairs for the Sanderson Street building.
Yes, Sanderson Street. So Sanderson Street building is a prime example. Over the years, it's changed hands. It's had many different uses. And along the way, I hate to say that we've fallen way behind on preventative maintenance and a few other things. I sent some pretty interesting pictures along of the siding and the raw, and in Christie's words, critters come in and having lunch with her, and all those good things. So in order to do the carpentry and some of the shoring up of the different areas, this is George got a quote together for me in order for us to do some maintenance and repairs on that building to bring it back. So and some lighting, which we'll do in-house, but we still have the cost of the supply. So
Okay, for the record, again, 80,000 from Fund 8402 Capital Stabilization. Any questions?
I just
Councilor DeSorga, go ahead.
one comment on this. I remember when we did I can see the things. I've been there, see things that needed to be done. Pictures were excellent. This was one of the buildings that didn't meet ADA requirements, as I think you probably knew that. So I don't know when you're doing the repair. It was the entranceway, and we do have public meetings there. So I don't know if that
is it the threshold in itself, because there's an elevator, right, Councilor?
was an elevator. It was the entryway. It was the I think it was the path you have to have an accessible path. So I'm just mentioning that while we're doing something, it's kind of good to look at the whole plan, and there are public meetings that are held there. And I think it was the building that had the most issues with ADA, but it was just, as I recall, and I didn't have a chance to look at that today, the accessible pathway from the parking lot in. That's my only comment, but could see.
I think I think I know what you're talking about. There's actually a worn-in path in the grass where a nice sidewalk could go. that they cut the corner, they don't use the sidewalk. So that in itself is a pretty easy fix. And I know the threshold has a pretty high lip on it. I think that might be a problem with the doorway accessing the elevator. I remember talking to George about it. I didn't put it in my notes here to you folks, but I do remember it's on the list when I spoke with George.
One more follow-up, if I may, and I don't remember, but if it doesn't have that and you're looking at that pathway, we always ask for actuators on the door. I don't know how much those cost, however, but I'm just mentioning it because when you're doing something, it's kind of an easy thing well, not easy for me to say, but while you're in the middle of something, sometimes it's easy to fix the little things that go around it. And it can be a little thing or it could be a medium job for you, but very important for someone who might have a mobility issue.
Yeah, the industrial grade actuators with the push button for wheelchair access. We have one in our brand new building at 189, and I do know it costs $5,000 for the whole setup. And I'm not saying that's a lot or not. The cost sticks in my head because I paid the final bills when I came back on that building. So.
Councilor Jarvis.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a blanket statement that you could probably spend a lot more than the 80,000. So I'm sure we'll see you back more because I think there's more work that needs to be done to that building. And by the way, it's anything less than an inch, Marlo, for the lip for ADA. So it has to be less than an inch.
So I know that it's more than an inch on that lip on that threshold.
Yeah. So I fully expect to see you back again for more money for the building because I know it needs more than the 80,000, and I know what 80,000 gets you into construction world today, and it's not a whole bunch. So
I mean, this 80,000 gets us the major repairs we got going on, and we'll reseal the building and take care of the rot down near the bottom in the driveway area. Reseal the building again, and we go from there. This will seal it up. That's important.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that this wouldn't be the last time we see you on that building for people that are listening. That's all.
Thank you.
You're reading my mind, Councilor Jarvis.
Okay. I'm being pushy tonight, but we're doing good. Next one is our bucket truck. The sum of 60,000 to be appropriated from Fund 8402 Capital Stabilization for a bucket truck.
Yes, Councilor Jarvis brought that up earlier that George would be here, but I have now that central maintenance is under me, I get to bring all George's headaches. It's part of my job now. So, we actually have 2 bucket trucks, 2 electricians. They're used quite a lot, for many different things. And they're both in really poor shape. We've had them both go down frequently this winter. One of them, it's red. It's the old fire department bucket truck. So let's go back some time, and they're using this equipment. It's due for a ring gear and a base for the actual bucket assembly, which is worth much more than the whole truck, to be quite frank. So we've had very good luck with used bucket trucks over the years. We catch something from Comcast or whatnot. And to save on cost, this is what we're going to do. This is for a used bucket truck. We don't use them excessively like Comcast out in the street or say something like that. So we've gotten this many years out of used bucket trucks. I have to say that Paul Newell and the vehicle maintenance division, they do a pretty knockout job keeping us going and making sure things are fall under safety. Bucket trucks need an inspection once a year by an inspector. So, and they've passed it every year. They look at this thing like it's not going to pass, but it passes because we keep things in as good a running shape as we possibly can until we can't. So, I know the electricians would be very happy with a new used bucket truck.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. We're going to go back to another 1/3 of the roadside mower.
I'm prepared to repeat the same statement unless you would like me to pass.
No, we're just going to say that this was going to be transferred, 55,000 is to be transferred from fiscal 21 sewer retained earnings. So it's the same mower, but they're splitting the price tag on this mower 3 ways because it's functional and it's used by 3 different departments. Does that sum it up for you,
Yeah.
Marlo? Giving you a break?
Yeah. Well, no, retained earnings, just so everyone knows, I think everyone knows, but retained earnings is our savings account, if you will. We're not borrowing anything else.
Right. Okay. Are we good with that? Excellent. $150,000 for sewer upgrades, repairs, and replacement for reconstruction of the Sanderson Street.
Okay, so this is where it should say West Street.
It should say West Street.
Yeah, the financial order I have, 22-115, says sewer upgrades, repairs, and replacement at West Street Rehab Phase 2.
Hang on here. 115, okay.
Marlo, the part I was mentioning was in that second sentence in before.
Yes, I didn't see that. I remember it being wrong on the agendas, and I pointed that out, but I didn't see this when I put this together. So that's definitely, we have to change it in both places.
Okay, got it.
I'm all done talking about Sanderson Street. We bid that project out, and we're going to be starting it in May.
Good. So the language on this motion has to be changed for the reconstruction of West Street?
Rehab Phase 2, because we did Phase 1 last year.
Rehab Phase 2. Yep, got it, on West Street. But in the body of the motion, it does say replacement for reconstruction of Sanderson Street. So that needs to be changed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good catch, Councilor Tronzo.
Yes, very good
I want to make
catch.
sure we vote the right thing, or I can't use the money on West Street.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Phase 2. If folks remember, or if they weren't on the council, we work hand in hand with MJ and Lindsay Rowe on the CDBG. And this grant money was funded for phase 2 as it was for phase 1. But you'll see another article, another appropriation request later for 100,000 for water. This is 150,000 for sewer. So it's going to be an $816,000 project. CDBG is putting in somewhere around between 550 and 570. We have to match it with 150 in sewer and 100 in water in order to do the whole project. So it's the same as last year. And by the way, the water main's now 105 years old. Another year's gone by on this section of West Street, and we've had a few breaks on that water main in the last year. So it's starting to grab us more frequently now, and the pipe's pretty thin. It's cast iron.
Okay, so this basically is going to be a borrowing out of general fund. This is not going to come out of water or sewer retained earnings.
It's borrow, but it'll be borrow for sewer, Counselor, I believe.
Okay, because it doesn't actually say anything, unless I'm not seeing it correctly. I don't see an account listed here, so, okay, we will.
Yeah, so it's not coming out of retained earnings. We're gonna borrow like we do in the general fund. We're gonna borrow through the sewer like we do.
Got it.
That's why
Okay.
it's not an account, I believe. That's what Liz and I talked about. It's been a while, but I believe that's what we talked about.
Yeah, okay, because you can't, in those accounts, enterprise funds, you can't borrow on your own. You have to use the city's borrowing authority to do it. So I get it. Thank you. I
But it's gonna be
appreciate that.
paid back through sewer enterprise. It's not.
Got
gonna
it.
be full side.
Got it. Any questions?
This
Okay,
also will help us with a pretty good I&I problem. As we do these other projects, we eliminate more I&I on top of what I'm requesting. So every little bit helps not going down to that plant.
Is the phase 2 part for the section of West Street between Conway and Wells?
No, between
Conway and Elm?
Yes.
Conway and Elm, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you did Elm West, right?
Yes.
Down to, what is that, Western Ave at the end?
Yeah, and we did real well on that project. We ended up, rather than just patching the trench and overlaying the road, we put a whole new road in there. We had the funds at the end of the project, which is the perfect way to do a project, honestly.
Yeah. Nice.
all right, we're moving along.
Okay.
So this is also to appropriate $90,000 from fiscal year 21 sewer retained earnings to replace Ford F-350 truck, number 15. And there are pictures of this for everyone.
For anybody that's had a sewer call at their house, this is the frontline truck, emergency truck. It goes to all construction sites, carries all the materials, supplies it needs. It carries the sewer clearing machine for on-call. It's got a turnkey, it's got to go. We just had the engine out of it 3 weeks ago, so we had to do head gaskets. We couldn't wait for the appropriation and get a new one in. So we're starting to sink higher dollar amounts into this truck. Again, it's kind of beyond its life cycle. This truck goes day in and day out. We are speccing four-wheel drive with a plow on it this time around. That way there we have another plow truck available to us in a spare situation. Due to the fleet, we have breakdowns, so it's always good to keep the staff going in a vehicle when one breaks down.
All right, any questions? If there aren't any, we'll move along to the next item. Was $500,000 for sewer inflow and infiltration repairs and replacements as identified in the Wright Pierce Sewer System Evaluation Survey.
Okay, well, between Wisdom Way and I, you guys and gals must think I'm a broken record. That's what you hear me talk about for 3 years. So It's pretty exciting. As I said to the council, they're going to actually start lining pipes tomorrow. They've been in, we've had a company in town for 2 weeks on the first phase of this first bid. They've been cleaning, cameraing pipes, make sure they haven't worsened since we did the evaluation. And they're going to actually start lining pipes. And I hope I get good news from Mark Hawley down at the plant going forward that when we get 2 inches of rain, we don't go to 13 million on the scale down there. So this is pretty darn exciting for the department, pretty exciting for me. This has been a pretty big undertaking. And then this 500,000 is the next step. We're going to have a little money left over from the million. So I requested 500,000 this year. We really can only contract so big a project with the staff in-house for inspections and to get through all the paperwork and procurement. So the overall repair is 5.48 million coming out of Wright Pierce. I think personally, we've already got a long list of in-house repairs that we're going to do. We hope to knock that cost down, I hope considerably in the next 3 to 5 years. So as a matter of fact, I think Friday, our update to DEP under the consent order is due, and I'm happy to report that all the boxes are checked so far as we go through that 36-page document. So pretty amazing the amount of work in the background, engineering and visual inspections and so on and so forth that have to happen to fix the system. So pretty happy I am, I must say.
An awful lot of work. Thank you. Thank you.
Good old 100-year-old clay pipes, Counselor.
I actually saw the wooden ones at one time.
Oh, no, you did it.
Yes, that's how old I am. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a quick question on this. So do you,
Sure.
I see how this is going forward, that you're going to keep needing this. How many years before you think we'll be out from the consent order? Like 3 or 4 that we'll be finished with that? Or I see you said you checked all the boxes, but.
Yeah, all the boxes so far. We had timelines on different pages of that consent order, and we've hit all the timelines so far. Friday's another timeline we're hitting, and like I said, I'm happy to report we're in the repair phase of the consent order. So as long as we're showing improvement, they didn't say you have to be done in 5 years. You don't have to be done in 7 years. But with the condition of these clay pipes, it would be my goal to be done in the maximum of 5 years, because the pipes are just going to deteriorate worse and create cave-ins and emergencies. At the end of the day, that's what it's going to create. So, so 3 to 5 years, I hope we have this done, as long as we have the funds and we can afford to do the repairs. So there's a lot of personnel access structures out there. Used to be known as manholes. We're not supposed to say that anymore. Excuse me. That need to be lined. They're taking a lot of I&I. The old brick lined ones need to be patched. So they actually line manhole the personnel structures now, just like they do a pipe. So we're going to put a contract together for that, because that's a lot of labor or replacement to replace one of those. So just another tidbit of information.
Any more questions? Okay, we're going to move forward. This is the sum of 100,000 to be appropriated from water main replacement, and to meet said appropriation, 100,000 to be transferred from the fiscal year 21 water retained earnings.
Well, I got a short list on the forms that I sent y'all. So we had a pretty difficult summer last summer, as we all recall. I will not go into convulsions talking about the water main breaks and so many of them, but it was a dark time for the department, but they rose to the occasion, I have to say. And a lot of these older pipes are the ones we had the problems with. So I've added a few projects on there. Again, I kind of left this open-ended. Not that I had a crystal ball, but we all know what's happened to costs recently. Well after budgets were closed and everything. So, and plus I'm working with MJ on some different grants. So I wanted to leave it open-ended. I also gave the mayor 4 projects and estimates for water mains that she's working with dignitaries on to get some money for. So I can't say I'm doing this street this year, this one next year, but we will use the money. So it's just a matter of hearing back on some of those other funding potentials.
Just had a quick question.
Go ahead,
Um,
Councilor Toronto.
And I saw that down the pipe we're talking about Rocky Mountain valves. If I remember right, part of like that, the big break, if you will, where a bunch went at the same time, had to do with the Rocky Mountain getting infiltrated. Was that right? With the groundwater was infiltrating the top of the tank? Am I remembering this correctly?
We had, I think, somewhere in the area of 16.5 inches of rain in July, late July. And it got on top of the tank, which was refurbished in 2016. I was not here, I was in Hadley. And we found when it got infiltrated, non-harmful bacteria, an indicator bacteria got in the water. So we had 2 positive samples. It was not E. coli. But under regulation, we had to shut that tank down. When you get 2 hits on that particular bacteria, you don't want to wait another 24 hours to find out it's E. coli and you're feeding it to the system. That's the human's term. So when we shut the tank down, I ordered the tank shut down, and that's when I was informed that the valves at the front of the tank were not replaced when the tank was refurbished. And also there's a bypass line down the bottom of Maple Street. You shut down that largest line we have in town, 24-inch, and you slam that door shut with no relief, it created water hammer.
Sure.
Every bit of water coming from out our way, Councilor 4G, from the facilities hit a brick wall. We changed the flow of our system, and it took days for that to calm down. We even opened hydrants. That's another thing I'm working on. How do we prevent this in the future? It's got to be engineered. The water system's got to be modeled, they call it, for pressure points. And that's certainly nothing. It's way above our heads in the department. That has to be done by a firm. So, but we also didn't have the capability of shutting the Rocky Mountain tank down at the tank. It's beyond, I do not know why they weren't replaced. They should have been. We were right there and we had the funding. I do know that. So,
was it just infiltrating like through the top, like through the seals of the tank? Did that?
Yeah, there's
my due diligence. I didn't follow up on
yeah,
this.
there was 6 patches up there, and they dug around them and found, and I got pictures. They found when they pulled the hatch up, you could see the calcium lines going down the cement into the tank. So we knew it infiltrated there.
Right.
So we fixed it in-house. We sealed those tops.
Nice.
With rubber and special hydraulic cement, and recovered everything. So we hope that we've resolved it. But we had an incredible amount of rain that sat on top of that tank for weeks. So.
Okay. Are we all set on that? No more questions? Okay, the next one is our Oak Hill. Okay, this has got, it's the Oak Hill, let me see, replace Oak Hill Actuator and Controls.
Yeah, the actuators and controls, I pretty much summed it up. You've heard me say in the past when we've upgraded certain electrical in our water facilities that literally we found parts on eBay. I'm not far off on this one either. It was a pretty good description I put in here. The company for these actuators and controls that control the water and treatment went out of business in 1973. So 1973 to now, you can imagine the parts are pretty much unavailable. We have to call somebody to repair a circuit card or something and just to keep us limping along. And what bothers me is if we can't get a repair real quickly on this, is it cuts a major percentage of our water fighting fire and supplying the public at the same time. So this is a real high priority one for me. I don't want to be in that situation. We would have to go immediately into limited use water for the public just to make sure we had enough water out of the well fields and elsewhere to fight a sizable fire. I think we got our life out of this equipment.
Okay. And the sum requested is $175,000, and it's a borrowing.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? Oh, and Councilor Jarvis,
You're on mute.
you're mute.
I did it. That gets us at least a couple times a meeting, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
Did we
gets us.
miss Millbrook, or is that next? My Millbrook was before Oak Hill and mine.
Oh,
Yeah, that's okay. I have them all. I was just following the chair's lead.
well, don't,
Yeah.
that could follow
I just
you
wanted to point out we missed Millbrook.
Okay,
Well,
well,
we can finish this one first, but I just didn't want to move on without getting to that one.
I
okay,
won't let anything get forgotten, I promise.
okay. So since we've started the conversation on this, are we all set on replace the Oak Hill actuator and controls? Are we good? Does anybody have any questions? Okay, we'll go back. Thank you for pointing that out, Councilor Jarvis.
Another added comment on this is these electronics don't have the availability to hook into our SCADA system that we installed 3 years ago. So the new equipment will allow us to see right on the phones and tablets and whatnot what's going on with these facilities now. So that's a very big upgrade, big part of the SCADA system.
Okay. We are back with Millbrook Welfield pH system.
Well, I call it the silo.
Yes, it looks like it.
The water personnel calls it something else, but they got a fancy name for it and their licensing and whatnot. But I think a picture is 1,000 words to explain this project. So the last 4 or 5 years, forever we've been treating our water pH with lime. That's what goes in the silo, I call it. The last 2 years, we've only had one bidder on bulk supply lime, and we're really fearful that we're not going to have a supply to treat our water at Millbrook. The way chemicals and supply chains are out there right now, it's we're not even getting a response from the company to begin the bid process for the lime. So if we don't replace this system with an upgraded, up-to-date system, you can picture 4, 5, 6 workers dumping 50-pound bags of lime into this silo. That's how we'd have to buy it in order for us to treat our water going through the facility there. So that's pretty layman's terms, but that's what would happen if we don't get a bidder. We don't have any other way of new way of treating the water appropriately under regulation. So that's a quick bullet summary of why we got to replace that. I did get some verbiage of exactly what we're putting in there, which is today's standard. I don't know if I want to bore you with the fancy writing and all that, but
Everybody wants to talk about potash.
yeah. Well, it's the wrong stuff. No, I'm just kidding. But so yeah, that's a more appropriate, up-to-date way of treating our water. So then we're gonna have to take these silo down someday. We may work on that ourselves. We got some heavy equipment operators that it's really fun to break something now and then rather than be real technical on the ground. So demo jobs are always fun. I ran an excavator, I can tell you that.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, we're moving on. We're almost to the end, folks. Thank you for your patience, and thank you, Marlo. This is a magnitude job. It really is.
Did we cover Rocky Mountain tank valves appropriately, or Councilor Forgy, do you want to clarify?
We did talk about that. Councilor Toronzo brought that up, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, it kind of came out in that same
It did
conversation.
come out in that other one. So all I really think I need to say is it's a sum of $105,000 to be appropriated through borrowing. Okay. On to 100,000 water earnings for, looks like the West Street rehab project. We want to confirm that it is the West Street.
Yeah, that's the drinking water portion of the 5-year main, water main as part of that CDBG project, our funding towards that project, towards CDBG.
Okay. Has anybody got any questions, comments that they'd like to make? Okay, again, it's 100,000 to be appropriated for phase 2 of the West Street rehab project. And it is a appropriation that needs to be transferred from fiscal year 21 water retained earnings.
Yes, no borrowing on that one.
Correct, no borrowing. Next one is part 3 of the mower.
Oh, I gotta do this again. I mean, it's a quick time.
I don't think you do. Is everybody okay with that?
Indeed.
Okay,
I got
All
the
right,
purchase order
well-
for the third time.
okay, so we want to hear it? Okay, one more time. Okay, folks, this was great. Thank you so much, Director Warner, for this, for slogging us through the trenches on this one. I mean, there's a lot of work here, and I'd really like to just take an opportunity to commend you and all the people that work in DPW. We're greatly appreciative of what you do and how you keep us safe, and particularly how you keep our water supply very healthy. We appreciate that. That's a precious resource. Councilor Jarvis.
Chris, I just wanted to say to Marlo and you, when you were bringing up the water mains in
Yes.
Greenfield, this is a piece of water main from Greenfield from 1860.
Yes.
So there you go. There's a little piece of Greenfield's history right there.
There you go. That's it. That's probably what I saw at the fire department somewhere along the line.
Is that
You
the one that
did.
disappeared out of my office when I left in 16, Councilor Jarvis?
Once
I just
again,
wanna- Yeah, thank you so much for the compliments. You know, it takes an army to put this together. I know I put a lot of time into it. I drive my staff crazy with all the questions so I can give you as much information as possible. But I do want to make a quick comment. We have hit our target on every bid in procurement. I know it's a big concern with some folks right now with escalation with fuel and everything. I know it's coming. To say I'm not concerned about some of these projects, I mean, of course I am. I'm concerned about every project that goes out to bid, and I pride myself in hitting our target on the monies that we request. So it's not a fair warning or anything. It's just what I'm observing. You know, we're already getting the nice little love letters from the asphalt companies, you know, telling us to expect possibly a $9 per ton increase. So you can imagine what that'll do to our paving program. The other thing is vehicles. There's some manufacturers of heavy duty trucks that won't even take an order right now. And they will not stick to a price because it takes about a year to get one of these trucks built and delivered. So all that's up in the air with me. I just wanted to be upfront. We have a vehicle arriving hopefully at the end of the week that I ordered back in July, a Chevy Equinox. So it was stuck waiting for a computer chip in Mexico. That's where it's been. We just got a build date on the dump truck that you authorized me last year. It's not even on the assembly line yet.
Wow.
So I just got a build date. So as the heavy duty vehicles deteriorate and we're getting beyond their life cycle, it's getting harder to get replacements in a timely fashion too. And it's something I can't control. I wish I could, but that's kind of where we're at on vehicles. Just a quick note.
All right. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we'll see you during general budget time as well.
I got the other binder cooking right here.
Okay, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Thank you, Marlo, very much.
Thank you all for your time. I know there's a lot here, but it's all important. I bring to you what I feel we really need, so.
Thank you once again. All right, for the committee, is there any other business? All right. Oh, Councilor DeSorga.
So this is kind of a question for Thursday? Do we have
Yes.
anybody up? Yeah. So
Yes.
Thursday, and then, just a thought, maybe this is, I guess I won't, I'm not gonna go into my thought. But just for Thursday night, what's up for Thursday?
Okay, excuse me. I just want to announce that our next capital budget hearing is Thursday, March 31st, 2022, 6 p.m. via WebEx. We will be talking to MJ Adams, Community and Economic Development, and then we will begin budget deliberation and recommendations. It all depends on how quickly we get through this budget deliberation, but I've also scheduled April 7th for that as well, if we need more time to make decisions and recommendations that'll go out to council floor on the capital budget. If everybody would, if you have questions and everything else, you have pros and cons, this is the time to discuss them in our deliberation, what's going on. Other than that, if there are no more questions, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And second, disorder?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Aye.
So thank
Any
you.
opposed or abstentions? Okay, the meeting closes at 7:42 p.m. Good night, and thank you all very much.